So welcome to the Node.js Technical Steering Committee meeting for, I guess it's May 17th, 2023. Before we get started, does anybody have any announcements they'd like to share? I just have one that just wanted to say thanks to everybody who was at the Collaborator Summit and OpenJS World last week. I think it went well, and we'll have some of, I think, the discussions from the sessions documented in the next week or so. The next section is the CPC and board meeting updates. I don't have any updates, and I don't think we have Matteo or Rich, who are our representatives there. Anybody else have any updates they want to share on that front? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the items on the agenda. The first one is the 2023 TSC elections. So I opened an issue and sent an email a few weeks ago. It seems like in terms of the self-nominations, we just have the same people as last year. So based on our governance and what we did last year, unless there's any objections, we'll acclaim those people by the end of the week. So if you have any issues or discussion on that front, you can go to the issue 1382. There it is. The next one is adding the OpenJS Foundation member staff as a billing manager on Node Private. I think the original issue is opened to see if maybe they could add some dollars for us because we tend to run out on the Node Private repo. The discussion I think now is mostly about how we can reduce the usage. But I guess it's still worth asking, like, does anybody here have any concerns or issues in us if that does make sense to add the foundation staff as a billing manager to Node Private, not just private? I think that might give them access to some of the content, but
I mean, no objections. I mean, the usage that we have there, it's pretty much when we need to run CI to test security fixes. So I'm not sure we can reasonably reduce the usage there. So yeah, no objection.
People were looking at it, and I think Tobias, you'd looked a bit like we were using a lot of Mac OS minutes, and they're 5 times more expensive or something. And so there seemed to be some ideas of how we might tweak it to make it more effective. I don't know, Tobias, am I remembering correctly that you'd taken a look?
Yeah, I'd taken a look at trying to do incremental builds, at least in GitHub Actions, not in Jenkins. But especially in our private repositories, we might not want to do that for various reasons. So for our public repository, it makes sense, in my opinion, to do incremental builds. But for private repositories, we have to be extra careful not to introduce any side channels, not to leak any information or so.
I think one thing we might try is not having them auto start, because I think what happens often is, like, somebody pushes a PR, they start, then we push a change to the PR, then we push another change to the PR, and so we end up doing a bunch of runs that get abandoned, but I think that ends up still running some and using a bunch of minutes.
Yeah.
If we really want to, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we're wasting quite a lot of minutes on that, especially with developers like me that unfortunately always realizes a last minute change.
So I don't know if that's a configuration option or something, but that's one that might make sense.
If we really want this, I mean, that makes sense to me. I don't know if this makes sense, but if we're really determined to cut down on cost, we could not necessarily do all the builds or test runs in parallel. Like, run the cheaper ones first, like run the Linux ones. Only if the Linux stuff builds successfully and the tests pass, then start the Mac one.
Right.
And that way,
that's
the Mac
a good
one
point.
wouldn't even happen a good chunk of the time. It would make it a lot slower though. So I don't know if it's worth that trade-off, but
Right. Okay. So I think we can still explore in the issue some other ideas. If we do want to have them add some minutes, I mean, the reality is they were going to add like $100. I don't know how many minutes that gets us, and we're already getting 50,000 minutes. So I don't know if it's going to make a huge difference, but does anybody have any concerns or objections if we added the foundation staff? So if we decide we want to do that, we're all ready to go ahead. I'll just note in the minutes so that then again, I'll note in the minutes that there weren't any from the 9 of us who were here, that there weren't any concerns. Otherwise, yeah, if you have good ideas, maybe chime in that issue. And the other thing is that we gave a presentation at Open Source Summit, and I think one of the people who ran, somebody from GitHub, was very interested that we were running out of minutes and thought they might take a look at it. So who knows, something might come out of that as well. Okay, the next thing on the agenda was the Opportunity Gracehopper Open Source Day. I think from the notes in the issue, the submission's made, and we're just waiting to hear if it's accepted. I don't know if anybody else has any other discussion or things to talk about on that one. If not, okay. The next one, which was put on the agenda, is tools behind a node namespace number 1178. I think that's not a new issue, but somebody may have recently put it back on the agenda.
Yeah, that was me.
Okay.
Yeah, so this resurfaced. I think there was probably discussions at Collab Summit that probably made this kind of bubble up again. But so I think like now that this is open, there's been some work done. It sounds like we've secured the namespaces on NPM. So I think like what I'm would like to figure out is what do I need to do to move forward with moving these packages behind the namespace, both from like maybe like a government level and also or governance level and like process level. So like, does this need to go through a vote? Do I need to get approval of some sort? And then also, I think like figuring out what to do is kind of the easy part, but just making sure that like everyone's on board with moving forward with this. So I guess like what I would like to propose is that we put together like some sort of migration plan and then get it approved, maybe get a vote on it if we think that that's necessary, or just get TC approval before we execute and then just move forward with it afterwards.
I wouldn't think we would need a vote. If we have a plan documented, you can just say, ask if anyone objects or has any feedback on it. I don't think it needs any kind of formal vote.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure the mechanics, like we now have Node Core under a tag with the Node Foundation account. I think typically we haven't been publishing from that account directly, but I assume that account could like give, say, you your account the ability to publish to there or something like that, but we can figure that out once you get there.
I mean, if it makes it any easier, I don't even really feel like I need to see a plan. Like if you want to just do the migration as you best see fit, I feel like that's fine with me. I don't know if everyone feels that way.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, having something documented is just good for transparency and, visibility, so folks are aware of what's happening. But
yeah, I think an
I
issue
don't
with
think we need approval point of view.
an issue that covers the plan in advance, give people a little bit of time to comment is good.
Okay. Yeah. And then that kind of serves dual purpose too, because it deals with the packages we have now and the packages that we could adopt in the future, whether that's existing packages or newly created ones as well.
Right. Even it might be worthwhile to document somewhere that like, hey, if you've got one that you want to be published under the Node Core namespace, what do? Is it like you open an issue in the admin repo like we do for a lot of things, requesting that, and then if there's no objections in X amount of time, you can move forward. That kind of thing I think would be good for future ones.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks for picking that up again, and great to see it moving forward. The next issue is self-nomination, nominate Overflow D to the moderation team. I think it's on the agenda probably because our governance suggests that it should be. So I don't know if there's any discussion needed or whatever, but it's at least an FYI to everybody to take a look. Any questions or comments on that before I move on? Okay, if not, then we might as well move on to strategic initiatives. Let me just get that list up. Okay, so James, quick, anything you want to mention on that front?
Ongoing landing pull request. There's a larger one that's open right now that needs review. It's passing CI, just needs to be needs some approvals. And then I can go, you know, and keep iterating, keep pushing.
Okay, great. Joy, anything on startups, startup snapshot that you want to mention?
There is a progress open for 2 months to migrate JS2C to Silverstars to enable more compression options and speed up the build time. So also would appreciate some reviews to get it ended, because there's also another contributor waiting for it to unblock some changes that they are going to do. So yeah.
Maybe could you just add the PR to the minutes or in the chat and I can add it? That would be great.
Okay, done.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
On terms of the next 10, the survey completed just before the collaborator summit. Some interesting data there, and we're just working to get that we need to do a little bit of sanitization of the write-in answers and then get that published to the next 10 repo. Both, I think some good feedback in terms of our existing top technical priorities that we've identified and how that aligns with the community, as well as, a bunch of write-in experience on ESM usage and just general pain points and notes. So look for that when it lands. I think that's everybody that we have. Somebody, an update for this week. And that takes us to the end of the agenda. I don't know, is there any other issues or topics that people would like to talk about?
I just have a short comment from the performance team.
Okay.
So there are certain issues that the performance team is a little stuck with due to lack of expertise on the native side of things. And if someone, hint, James or Anna or someone have some time over, I think the performance team would love to have a little help with certain parts of the native code.
If you catch me on the Slack channel, just DM me. I'm pretty tied up here over the next week, but I'll respond as I'm able to.
Right, fair enough.
Any other comments, things like that to add before we close out?
Just a heads up on Raphael's state of performance blog post that maybe should have gone under announcement in this meeting. But that's a good read for everyone.
Okay. I'm going to add that to do you have the link to that?
No, but I can find it and put it in the doc.
Okay. Oh, somebody did paste it in there. Thank you. Okay, any other topics or things to add before we close out? Okay, if not, well, thanks for everybody's time and thanks for everybody who's been watching on the video stream. We will see you in GitHub in next time. Thanks.